Hello and welcome back to the workshop for a short episode, or really an addendum really, to the Früwirth carbine episode. Hopefully you survived that. While I was showing the bolt particularly, there was a mystery, and that was why on earth, when they built a perfectly normal symmetrical bolt, did they put the firing pin off center in the breech face? You can see here's the striker, and all they've done is just bent the firing pin just at the base here, so it goes off at a slight angle. And why on earth did they do that? There's no mechanical reason certainly in the gun itself, so that left just one thing, and that was the ammunition. And of course nowadays we're more or less standardized. We've got boxer priming, or we've got burden priming. That's not mentioning shotgun primers. Of course, that's today. In the 1860s, it was far different, of course. We've got the emergence of centerfire cartridges on an industrial scale, and everyone is still vying to get their priming system adopted. So therein lies the solution. And when I was researching the ammunition that the Austrians were using for these pistols, these carbines, it turned out that it was intimately linked with the Vandal carbine, which was ultimately adopted in the Austrian army over the Früwirth, but used a very similar, if not the same, kind of ammunition, and so did the 1870 Gasser revolver. And I found some nice documents which cleared up the mystery once and for all. So, when they were toying with the cartridges for these three firearms, they started off with what was called the Vilburger primer, which looks like this. So here in this drawing you can see clearly how the Vilburger principle works. Basically you've got a rimfire primer integral with the case base and right in the middle. So how this was made was when they formed the cartridge, there would be a pocket extending out the back of the base, and in that pocket they could put in their priming compound and an annular anvil, and then they'd probably rather gingerly push this pocket back into the base, which would then form this shape you can see here. And there you can clearly see why, in fact, this system favours a slightly off-centre strike rather than a dead-centre strike. So that's one way of doing it, but that wasn't the end of the story. The Austrians were not quite satisfied with the Vilburger priming principle. It worked, however, as you could see, it's rather complicated to make, and it involves lots of folding carefully. So yeah, they weren't quite happy with that. So they tested another system, that of Georg Roth, or Roth to you and me, and his one looked like this. Get me, I found a real picture this time. Now you can see this case head is 1872, and now we have actually a standalone primer, but it's no ordinary primer. If we see, then the inside of the primer has again an annular anvil, and the priming compound would be then at the bottom of the primer. So once again, an off-center strike means you're going to get nice compression against the annular anvil, and a far more reliable ignition than if you hit dead center. So once again, the off-center strike makes sense. So having seen those two systems side by side, I'm guessing you can guess which one the Austrians went with. Of course, the Roth system. Now, there's no real difference in terms of performance, but one was certainly easier and safer to manufacture than the other. Now, there's been a couple of questions about how I'm managing to feed the Früwirth carbine. So I'll show you the ammunition, because it might also be useful for those of you who are lucky enough to have 1870 Gasser revolvers. So here we have the cartridge, as you saw me shoot, and what it's made of is one of these, 7.62 by 54R, cut down to 36mm. Nothing more, nothing less. No forming, fire forming whatsoever. It just fits perfectly as it is. And the load I use is 30 grains of Swiss number 2, which is FFFG for everyone else. Then a 5mm felt wad, and simply the bullet over the top. Now this one is an accurate mould. You'll see the code pop up there. And I've had it slightly modified so that the maximum diameter is 0.440, which is the groove depth of my barrel, and the heel is 0.438. And that allows me just to push the bullet into the case, like it is here, and the step then rests on the case mouth. I usually just give a slight, ever so slight crimp here at the case mouth, just to make sure that the rim isn't sticking out too much. And of course the heel prevents any telescoping of the rounds when they're in the tube mag, of course, which is a big help. So there we go, actually extremely easy to reload for. So there we are, a mystery no more. I hope you enjoyed this little venture into early centerfire priming systems, and it was certainly a discovery for me. I tend to forget nowadays that when these early cartridges were being designed, nothing was standard. Everybody was trying out new ideas, and yeah, what may seem like an odd design choice on a firearm usually had a very, very good reason behind it. Nowadays we just have to try and discover what it was. So I think now we can put the Früwirth back on the rack and give it a bit of a rest. And all I can do now is thank you very much for watching. Thank you for your patience, and for any support that you are giving us through Patreon. Awesome. And also keep on following us on our adventures on Facebook. Thanks. Bye.